I was standing in my childhood driveway clutching a manila folder that would change everything, but I had no idea yet. It was my first Thanksgiving, without Mom and Dad, and I thought this dinner would bring our family together in grief. I was so wrong. 6 months after burying our parents, I was about to discover that the people I had sacrificed everything for saw me as nothing more than a thief. The folder in my hands contained secrets that would expose the truth about who really deserved what. Before I tell you what happened that night, let me know in the comments where you are watching from, and please hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, you are going to want to hear how this family dinner turned into the most shocking moment of my life. My name is Joanna, and I am 32 years old. I used to think family meant everything, but that was before I learned the difference between relatives and people who actually love you. Let me take you back to understand how we got to that terrible Thanksgiving night. I am the oldest of 5 children. After me came Marcus, who was 30, then Rachel at 28, Maya at 26, and our baby brother Daniel, who just turned 24. We grew up in a beautiful colonial house in suburban Ohio that my parents Robert and Linda Thompson bought when they were newlyweds. Dad worked as an accountant for 40 years, and Mom taught elementary school until she got sick. 5 years ago, everything changed. Dad had a massive stroke while Mom was battling severe diabetes complications. In one terrible week, my parents went from independent, active people to needing round-the-clock care. Marcus lived in Chicago with his wife Sarah and their 2 kids. Rachel had moved to Denver with her husband Tom to open a hair salon. Maya was in Detroit going through a messy divorce. Daniel was finishing his junior year at Ohio State University. Then there was me. I had been working as a marketing manager for a mid-sized company in Cleveland about an hour from my parents. I had my own apartment, a serious boyfriend named Kevin, and I was up for a promotion that would have changed my career trajectory completely. But when the doctor told us someone needed to be with Mom and Dad full-time, everyone looked at me. Marcus said he could not leave his job because Sarah was not working and they had a mortgage. Rachel claimed the salon was just getting established and she could not abandon her business partner. Maya was dealing with custody battles and could not move. Daniel was still in school. That left me. I told myself it would be temporary. Maybe 6 months, maybe a year. I moved back into my childhood bedroom and transformed my life into something I never recognized. I learned how to give insulin shots when Mom's hands shook too badly to do it herself. I figured out how to lift Dad from his wheelchair to his bed when his left side refused to cooperate. I became an expert at reading the signs of Dad's seizures and Mom's blood sugar crashes. The worst part was not the physical demands. It was watching my parents, who had been so vibrant and independent, become confused and frustrated by their own bodies. Dad would cry when he could not remember words he had known for 70 years. Mom would apologize over and over for needing help with things she had done effortlessly her whole life. My siblings visited when they could, which was not often. Marcus came for Christmas and Easter. Rachel managed maybe 3 visits a year. Maya showed up when she needed money or wanted to complain about her ex-husband. Daniel came home for school breaks, but he was busy with classes and internships. Meanwhile, my savings account drained paying for medical equipment, physical therapy, and prescription costs that insurance would not cover. Kevin started complaining that I was never available for dates or weekend trips. When I had to cancel our vacation to Costa Rica because Dad had pneumonia, Kevin said he understood, but I could see the resentment building. He eventually gave me an ultimatum: choose him or choose my parents. I chose my parents and Kevin left. The promotion I had been working toward went to someone else. My boss was understanding at first, but after 2 years of me missing meetings for medical emergencies, they had to let me go. I found part-time work doing freelance marketing from home, but it paid a fraction of what I had been making. During this time, My parents made a decision that would later tear our family apart. 3 months before they died, they called their lawyer and updated their will. They left the house and their entire savings account, about $200,000, to me. They tried to explain their reasoning to my siblings during one of Marcus's rare visits. "Joanna gave up everything to take care of us," Mom said, her voice weak but determined. "She sacrificed her career, her relationship, her whole life. It is only fair." Marcus was furious. "What about the rest of us? We are your children too." Dad's speech was still slurred from the stroke, but his message was clear. "You all made your choices. Joanna made hers." Rachel called me crying that night. "It is not fair, Joanna. You basically manipulated them into changing their will." Maya was even more direct. "You planned this whole thing. You moved in so you would inherit everything." Even Daniel seemed hurt, though he did not say much. I tried to explain that I had not known about the will change until after they did it, but nobody believed me. The last 3 months before my parents died were horrible. My siblings barely spoke to me during visits. They would whisper in corners and stop talking when I entered the room. Maya started making pointed comments about people who take advantage of elderly family members. Marcus began questioning every medical decision I made, as if I was keeping our parents sick on purpose. When Mom and Dad died in that car accident, I was devastated. Not just because I lost the 2 people who meant everything to me, but because I realized I had also lost the rest of my family. At the funeral, my siblings sat on one side of the church while I sat alone on the other. The divide was obvious to everyone. Marcus hired a lawyer to contest the will, but it was ironclad. Mom and Dad had been of sound mind when they made the changes, and they had clearly stated their reasoning. The lawyer told Marcus there was no case, but that did not stop the resentment from growing. That brings us to Thanksgiving. Maya called me the Tuesday before and said, "We are having dinner at Marcus's house. You should come. It is time to put this family back together." I was so hopeful. I thought maybe grief had made them realize that fighting over money was pointless when we had already lost so much. I spent Wednesday making Mom's famous green bean casserole and sweet potato pie, thinking about how we used to cook together for holidays. I had no idea they were planning my execution. I arrived at Marcus and Sarah's house at 5 o'clock on Thursday evening, carrying the dishes I had made and a manila folder that I thought contained good news for my family. The folder held documents I had discovered while cleaning out Mom and Dad's papers, information that I believed would help everyone understand how fair our parents had actually been. Sarah opened the door, wearing a forced smile. "Hello, Joanna. Come in, I guess." Her tone was cold, but I tried to stay positive. "Hi, Sarah. I brought Mom's green bean casserole and sweet potato pie." She took the dishes without thanking me and walked away. Marcus appeared in the hallway, avoiding eye contact. "How was traffic?" he asked, then turned and walked back to the living room before I could answer. The house felt wrong immediately. Usually family gatherings were loud and chaotic, with kids running around and multiple conversations happening at once. This felt like a funeral, where everyone was angry at the deceased. Rachel and her husband Tom were already there, sitting on the far side of the living room. Rachel gave me a quick nod, but did not get up to hug me like she normally would. Tom pretended to be very interested in the football game on television. Maya was in the kitchen with Sarah, and I could hear them whispering. When I walked in to see if they needed help, they stopped talking immediately. "We have everything under control," Maya said without looking at me. "You can just wait in the living room." Daniel was the only one who seemed genuinely happy to see me. He hugged me and asked how I was doing, but even he seemed nervous. "How are you holding up, sis? I know this is hard without Mom and Dad." "I am managing," I said. "It helps to have family." Daniel's expression flickered like he knew something I did not. Yeah, family is important. We sat down for dinner at 6:30. The table that used to be filled with laughter and stories was deadly quiet. Someone would make a comment about the weather or the food, and then silence would fall again. I tried to break the tension by sharing a memory about Dad always carving the turkey wrong and Mom having to fix it. Nobody laughed, nobody even smiled. Maya actually rolled her eyes. Some people think every story has to be about them, Maya muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. I felt my face flush. I was just remembering Dad. I thought we could share some happy memories. Maybe we should focus on the present instead of living in the past. Rachel said, her voice sharp. Marcus cleared his throat. Speaking of the present, some people need to face reality about their choices. I was confused. What do you mean? Nothing, Sarah said quickly. He means nothing. But I could see the looks being exchanged around the table. Everyone knew something I did not, and they were barely containing their excitement about it. The tension continued through the main course. When I complimented Sarah on the stuffing, Maya said, well, some people have time to perfect their recipes when they do not have real jobs. When I mentioned how much I missed Mom's cooking, Marcus said, yeah, it is funny how some people suddenly cared so much about Mom and Dad when it became profitable. I was starting to feel sick. These were not subtle hints anymore. They were direct attacks, and I had no idea why. After we finished eating and were waiting for dessert, Maya stood up and tapped her spoon against her wine glass. The sound cut through the conversation like a knife. I have an announcement to make, she said, her voice loud and clear. Everyone at the table turned to look at her except me. I was looking around at their faces, trying to understand why they all looked so satisfied, like they were about to watch their favorite movie. We have all talked about this situation, Maya continued, and we took a family vote. My stomach dropped. I looked at Marcus, then Rachel, then Daniel. Daniel would not meet my eyes. Joanna, Maya said, turning to face me directly. We voted, and you are not family anymore. You manipulated Mom and Dad when they were sick. You stole our inheritance. You used their illness to get rich while the rest of us grieved from a distance. The room was completely silent, except for the sound of my heart pounding in my ears. We do not want anything to do with you anymore. You are not welcome at family gatherings, family holidays, or family events. As far as we are concerned, you are not our sister. Then, something happened that I will never forget as long as I live. Everyone at the table started clapping. Sarah clapped enthusiastically and said, finally someone said it. Rachel nodded vigorously. We should have done this months ago. Tom, who had barely spoken to me all evening, said, it is about time someone stood up to her. Marcus looked directly at me with cold, empty eyes. You are not welcome in this family anymore, Joanna. We all agreed. I looked at Daniel, hoping for some support, some indication that not everyone had lost their minds. He looked uncomfortable, but he did not defend me. He just stared at his plate and said nothing. The applause died down, and everyone waited for my reaction. They wanted me to cry or beg or defend myself. They wanted drama. Instead, I felt something unexpected wash over me. Relief. For 5 years, I had sacrificed everything for this family. I had given up my career, my relationship, my independence, my savings, and my social life to care for our parents. I had endured months of accusations and cold shoulders and whispered conversations. I had bent over backward, trying to prove that I deserved their love and respect. And now they had finally shown me who they really were. I smiled. Not a fake smile, not a bitter smile, but a genuine, peaceful smile. Well, I said, standing up slowly, if that is how you all feel, then I guess you will not be needing this. I reached into my purse and pulled out the manila folder I had brought. Every eye at the table focused on it as I placed it gently in the center of the table right next to the centerpiece. "What is that?" Marcus asked, trying to sound disinterested. "Just some paperwork I found while cleaning out Mom and Dad's house," I said casually. "I thought you all should see it, but since I am not family anymore, I suppose it does not matter." Maya reached for the folder with a look of contempt. "What kind of paperwork? Why don't you open it and find out?" Maya pulled the folder toward her and flipped it open. I watched her face as she processed what she was seeing. Her expression went from annoyed to confused to shocked to horrified in about 10 seconds. "What? What is this?" She stammered, her voice shaking. "This cannot be real." She started flipping through the pages faster, her breathing becoming rapid and shallow. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God, oh my God." Then she started screaming. "This is fake. You made this up. There is no way." Marcus grabbed the folder from her. "What are you talking about? What is it?" I remained calm as chaos erupted around me. "Those are life insurance policies, Marcus. 2 of them, each worth $500,000. Mom and Dad each had one, and I am the sole beneficiary on both." Sarah's mouth fell open. $1 million. "There is more," I said quietly. Marcus was frantically flipping through the papers. "This says Dad had an investment account worth $700,000. How is that possible?" "Dad was always good with money," I explained. "He started investing when he was young. He asked me to help him manage the account after his stroke, because I was the only one here. He never mentioned it to any of you because you never asked about his finances." Rachel grabbed some papers from the pile. "What is this one?" I looked at what she was holding. "Oh, that is the record of the $30,000 you borrowed from Mom and Dad Marcus, the loan you took out 3 years ago to help with your down payment." Marcus turned white. Sarah stared at him in shock. "You borrowed $30,000 from your parents and never told me. And, Rachel," I continued, "that paper shows the $25,000 you borrowed to start your salon. The money you promised to pay back when business picked up." Tom looked at his wife in disbelief. "You told me that money was a gift. You said your parents gave it to you." Rachel's face flushed red. I was going to tell you." Maya was still frantically going through the papers. "What about me? What lies are you telling about me?" I pointed to another document. "That shows the $20,000 debt you had that Mom and Dad paid off for you. Remember when you defaulted on that personal loan last year? You begged them to help you, and they paid it so your credit would not be ruined." Maya's face crumpled. They said they would never tell anyone." "They did not tell anyone," I said. "I found out when I was handling their finances during their illness. They made me promise to never embarrass you by bringing it up." Daniel looked terrified. "What about me?" I pulled out a thick stack of papers. "Your college tuition, your dormitory fees, your meal plan, your textbooks, your living expenses for 4 years, $100,000 total, all paid by Mom and Dad." The room was completely silent, except for the sound of papers rustling as everyone double-checked the documents. Finally, I pulled out a spreadsheet that I had created myself. I added it all up: Marcus $30,000, Rachel $25,000, Maya $20,000, Daniel $100,000. That is $175,000 that Mom and Dad gave to you while they were alive. I looked around the table at their stunned faces. You all already received your inheritance. You got it in cash over the years whenever you needed help. I got mine in the form of 5 years of caregiving medical bills and watching our parents decline. Sarah was the first to speak. "Marcus, How could you not tell me about this? Tom was shaking his head. Rachel, we filed our taxes together. How did you hide a $25,000 loan? Maya was crying now. It is not the same thing. That was different. How is it different? I asked calmly. Because the house, the inheritance that is different from loans and gifts. I smiled sadly. Maya, let me ask you something. Who do you think paid the property taxes on that house for the last 5 years? Who do you think paid for the new roof when the old one leaked? Who do you think maintained the yard and fixed the plumbing and painted the rooms? She stared at me without answering. I did, with my own money. The money I should have been using to build my own life. While you were all receiving financial help from our parents, I was spending my savings, keeping their house from falling apart. Marcus tried to interrupt. But the life insurance money that I am entitled to because I am the beneficiary. The money that exists because Dad was smart enough to plan for the future. The money that none of you even knew existed until right now. I stood up and started gathering the papers back into the folder. The family that had just voted me out was now completely silent, processing the magnitude of their mistake. Since I am no longer family, I said, my voice steady and clear, I will not be responsible for any of this anymore. Maya, you said you voted me out. Well, I vote myself out too. I tucked the folder under my arm and picked up my purse. Good luck explaining to your creditors why the house payments will stop next month. Good luck figuring out how to split property taxes on a house that none of you can afford to maintain. I walked toward the front door, and nobody tried to stop me. Oh, and one more thing, I called over my shoulder. Mom and Dad wrote letters to each of you. I found them in their bedroom. They explained why they made the choices they did, and they asked me to give them to you after they were gone. I was planning to share them tonight. I paused at the door. But since I am not family anymore, I guess you will never know what they wanted to tell you. I walked out into the cold November air, got into my car, and drove away from that house forever. I drove for about 20 minutes in complete silence, my hands steady on the wheel, but my mind racing. Finally, I pulled into the parking lot of the park where Dad used to take us to feed ducks when we were kids. I sat on a bench overlooking the pond and cried, but I was not crying because my heart was broken. I was crying because I felt free for the first time in 5 years. The next morning, Maya started calling my phone. I let it go to voicemail. She called 17 times that first day. Marcus sent me 3 long emails apologizing and saying we could work something out. Rachel showed up at Mom and Dad's house, but I had already changed the locks. Within a week, I had made a decision that surprised even me. I was going to sell the house and move away from Ohio entirely. I called a real estate agent and put the family home on the market. When my siblings found out, the panic really set in. Rachel came banging on my door crying and begging me not to sell the family home. I reminded her that she had voted me out of the family, so it was no longer the family home. It was just my house. Maya threatened to sue me, but her lawyer told her the same thing Marcus's lawyer had said. Everything I was doing was completely legal. The house was mine. The insurance money was mine. The investment account was mine. I used part of the insurance money to hire a moving company, and I relocated to Portland, Oregon. I had always wanted to live in the Pacific Northwest, and now I finally could. In Portland, I rented a small apartment with huge windows and amazing natural light. For the first time in years, I decorated according to my own taste instead of trying to make someone else comfortable. I bought plants and colorful artwork. I set up a home office where I could restart my freelance marketing business. The best part was the silence. No medical emergencies in the middle of the night. No phone calls from siblings who needed money or wanted to complain about something. No guilt about not doing enough or not being in the right place at the right time. I joined a yoga studio near my apartment, and that is where I met Lisa. She was a divorced woman in her 40s who understood what it meant to start over. Through Lisa, I was introduced to a support group called Women Rebuilding. It was a group of women who had left toxic situations and were creating new lives for themselves. Listening to their stories, I realized how common my experience was. There was Jennifer, who had spent 15 years caring for her mentally ill mother, while her brothers lived across the country and criticized her methods via phone calls. There was Patricia, whose husband's family had treated her like an outsider for 20 years, until she finally left him and discovered peace. There was Amanda, who had been financially supporting her adult siblings until she realized they saw her as an ATM rather than a sister. For the first time since my parents' death, I felt understood. With my marketing background and my experience navigating elder care, I decided to start a consulting business. I would help families create care plans for aging parents and navigate the financial and emotional challenges that come with that responsibility. My own painful experience had given me insights that could help other families avoid the conflicts that had destroyed mine. The business grew faster than I expected. Families were hungry for guidance from someone who understood both the practical and emotional sides of caregiving. I hired 2 part-time assistants and rented a small office space. 6 months after leaving Ohio, I met David. He was a pediatrician who had lost his wife to cancer 3 years earlier. He understood grief, and he understood the weight of caring for someone you love. Our relationship developed slowly, built on mutual respect and genuine compatibility, rather than obligation or convenience. David never pressured me to reconcile with my siblings. He listened when I talked about them, and he supported whatever decisions I made about contact. 8 months after Thanksgiving, Daniel tracked down my new phone number. He was the only one I agreed to speak with. "Joanna, I am so sorry," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I was wrong to go along with them. I should have defended you." I appreciated his apology, but I told him honestly that I was not interested in rebuilding a relationship with the family. "Daniel, I love you, but I cannot go back to being the person who sacrifices everything for people who do not appreciate it." He understood. "Can I ask you something? Did Mom and Dad really write us letters?" "Yes," I said. "They each wrote letters to all 4 of you. They wanted you to know how much they loved you and how proud they were of your accomplishments. They also wanted you to understand why they made the decisions they did about the will." Can I still have mine?" I mailed Daniel his letters that same week. As far as I know, he never shared them with the others. A year after that terrible Thanksgiving, I was thriving in ways I had never imagined possible. My business was successful. I had a loving relationship with David, and I had built a chosen family of friends who genuinely cared about my well-being. I never received another invitation to a family gathering, and I was grateful for that. Because I learned something important that year. A table full of people who truly care about you is infinitely more valuable than a table full of relatives who only care about what you can give them. Some families are born, and others are chosen. The chosen ones are usually the ones worth keeping. I still think about my parents every day, but now those thoughts bring me peace instead of pain. They taught me to stand up for myself even when it meant standing alone. They showed me that love is not about obligation or guilt or keeping score. Real love is about sacrifice that comes from the heart, not from expectation of reward. My siblings taught me something too. They taught me that DNA does not guarantee loyalty, and shared childhood memories do not guarantee respect. They taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from people who only value what you can do for them. I am not angry anymore. I am grateful. That terrible Thanksgiving dinner set me free to build the life I actually wanted instead of the life I thought I owed to other people. And every Thanksgiving since then, I have celebrated with people who chose to love me, not people who felt obligated to tolerate me. That makes all the difference. I want to know what you think about this story. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice to distance yourself from toxic family members, even when it felt impossible? How do you handle family conflicts around money and inheritance? Share your experiences in the comments below, because I know many of you have similar stories, and your insights could help others who are facing these same painful decisions. Please give this video a like if my story resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming family drama, and share this with anyone who might need to hear that they are not alone in these struggles. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that choosing your own peace and well-being is never selfish. It is necessary. May you find the courage to build the life and family you truly deserve.